Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode from our SL Lightweight e-bike roundup. Today we're going to be talking about the Andorran Special 170mm 29-inch wheeled Forestal Siryon. This is the Diode build, and it is a bike, the first bike from a brand we have been very excited to ride, and we're excited to share the pros and cons and get into the details of this bike. So let's get into it. Moving into the mountain bike part of the Forestal, first we'll talk about Geo and some of the features. It has their twin levity suspension platform and a pretty solid all-around Geo. We tested the size large, and it has a 488mm reach, 625mm stack height, a 353mm bottom bracket height, 446mm chainstays with a 1,284mm wheelbase, making it the longest of the Shootout. The seat tube angle sits at 77 degrees, and it has a 64-degree head tube angle, tying it for the slackest bike on test with the transition relay, which is the only other 170 bike. Actually, no, it's a 160 bike. So most travel in the Shootout. The only bike that has the Bafang drive unit. Like we said, there's a lot of new stuff about this bike. It has Öhlins, which is the only bike in the Shootout, the Italian braking brakes. So there's a lot of stuff that was exciting, different, and mixes this bike up from the competition, which is good and bad, I think, and we'll kind of get into that. The looks, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I like it. It's got a great paint job. Seeing the shock through the top tube's kind of cool.
It makes it easy to see where your sag's at.
That's true, that's true.
And if you bottomed out?
You'd know.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool looking bike. It definitely gets attention out on the trail. Like, you know, this is a bike that if people see it going by, they want to ask and figure out what it is. So, you know, if that's your thing, this bike will get attention. The digital screen in the top tube is a touch screen. It's large. eMT Plus?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like a phone, right? It functions like a phone.
It's an Android platform.
It's an Android platform that has mapping, has GPS, has Wi-Fi capability. You can scroll through, you can track your Strava or whatever version of tracking you have right off this. It's ANT Plus compatible. I mean, it does it all.
Yeah.
It is probably the most comprehensive electronics package or head unit we've seen on a bike.
Also takes about 5 minutes for it to start up.
True, true.
Not quite, but it does take a while to boot up, yes. It is touchscreen, and it does work with gloves. Like all the gloves we had, it worked, so that is a plus. Really neat features, I thought, were a hang time or an air time calculator or tracker, and also a G-force tracker. Moving into the rest of the bike's performance, let's kind of talk about drive unit and climbing capabilities. Do you want to lead that off, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, the Eon drive from Bafang, it's got 60 Nm of torque, and at first it was doing really well, and then, I mean, as we would climb steeper trails and weather got hotter and hotter, the motor started to kind of slow down a bit, and it definitely gets real hot to the touch. Like
Can't touch it.
Yeah, like burn your calf hot.
Yeah.
I really wish that I could have either through the app or I guess the screen seen what the temperature is, and we didn't bring our little, you know, digital thermometer, unfortunately, but it felt like it was scorching hot, and I noticed almost zero power coming out, and the noise coming out of the drive unit radically increased, and I had this bike even in turbo mode while the other guys were in trail. I could not keep up. I just felt like there was almost like zero power coming out of the drive unit. It was, you know, 95 degrees. We were kind of repeating a couple of downhill sections and just climbing back up, but I mean, it was on the second lap that it started to just really degrade performance due to heat, I'm imagining, right? Because later on in the ride, after we kind of took a break and stuff, it sort of came back, but I mean, that's a real issue. And something that none of the other bikes suffered from, right? I mean, we had 5 or 6 other bikes on the trail at the same time in the same temperatures, And you know, with the transition with the Fazua, you said you started to notice a little decrease.
Like maybe
but like
from turbo to trail, but not.
I was peeled off the bat.
I mean, you were, yeah, it was 0 for you.
Yeah.
Climbing wise, it's pretty intuitive. It feels like it supports you like maybe a little higher cadence than some of the other motors, but I'm sure that's adjustable on the back end. But in general, has good torque curve, has good power down to the, you know, for what it is. I think it's a pretty decent unit.
Getting into just trail riding, descending, where does the bike sit for you guys?
I thought it excelled most on the jump trail at Speed King.
Okay.
Once we got the suspension, like it took a while to get suspension adjusted. It seems like every lap we were decreasing air pressure in both the ramp up and main chambers. And I got it to a point on Speed King where it's just butter, and then, but I mean, once we got into the rocks, it started to just chatter started to pick back up in the fork.
Yeah, I feel like high speed, smooth trails, it excels. It's got a long wheelbase. It really does well maintaining speed through berms, maintaining, you know, it actually, for all the suspension tuning we did on it, it still felt pretty comfortable coming off flips, and the rebound was pretty dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a Fox or a RockShox, right? Where we've ridden like, I don't know, 100 of them.
Yeah,
so
and I know my settings
we know our settings. Like, you know, we've only ridden a few of these, but I will say the charts are, I mean, so far off from what we actually were running. It was incredible. And I still feel like, I mean, the amount of time that we spent, you know, it wasn't small. Like, we did a lot of testing, a lot of air pressure, compression. Like, we played around a lot, and I still feel like a lot of the time we just said, like, gosh, I wish we just had a Fox spec bike or even a RockShox spec bike, like, and we could have tapped into this more of it quicker. And I know, you know, it's kind of a boutique thing and people feel like they're getting like some exotic stuff, which they are. I just don't know how user-friendly it is for the general public and consumer, right? I mean, we test and tune a lot of bikes, and like, if it's something that we can't do within a week or two of working on, like, I just kind of start wondering, like, when you get to a spot of not having a consumer-friendly product. But
the rear shock wasn't as bad.
Yeah, but I still felt like I felt like I could have gotten a better feel out of the bike with something else. The bike was fun. It did stuff, like it did some things quite well. I was happy with it. I enjoyed it. I really wanted to love this bike. When I first saw Forestal, you know, teasing their full power, I was like, I can't wait to ride one. Robert rode one at their media event, right? And he really liked it and was like, I can't wait for you guys to spend more time on it and see where it stands out. For me, it's a good bike, but it's amongst the other bikes that are out, there's nothing that really makes me want to buy this bike, because there are good bikes, but there are great bikes. And this is a good bike.
This is good.
So where would you rate this bike, or what score would you give
so
it?
for like low side, I think the suspension just takes too much time to tune for the average consumer. The brakes aren't amazing. High side, it's stable. I think with decent suspension, this could really shine. So I think potentially could be like 7.5, 7 for me, but in this package, probably more like a 6.
A 6, that low? Okay, okay, well, that's...
I mean, I could see where that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be between 6, 7.5. I mean, the motor concern is
That's
massive.
a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, the motor thing for me, like, that's a deal breaker. And unfortunately, that only just happened on the last day of shooting, so we weren't really able to, like, have time to reach out and see if that's a known issue. Maybe we just have a bad drive unit, but we will definitely reach out to Bafang and Forestal and leave a comment or a response from them down below. You know, maybe we just had a bad unit, but you know, we ride in the heat a lot and we like climbing back up to the top of downhill trails fast, and yeah, that is a bummer. So okay, so what's your score then?
I'll go on the safe side and go 6.75.
6.75?
All right.
Okay. What did you like most about the bike?
I mean, I like the aesthetics, and it's got AXS, which is a must for any bike over 10 grand, for me personally.
Okay.
The screen integration is nice.
Yeah.
It is.
I wish it was a little more customizability, but it is what it is. The battery cover, or charge port door, is, I think, the sleekest out of all of them.
That's definitely cool.
Yeah.
42.8 pounds for a 170 29er, pretty impressive. You know, it does have a 350 watt-hour battery, so I felt like, you know, range was an issue. The bike does some stuff well and it corners well, but for me, not the bike I would buy. I would probably give it a 7. I think it's a good all-around bike. The drive unit worries me and would, you know, have me possibly drop that, but I'm assuming this is a bad drive unit, and that's not normal, and if that's the case, I give the bike a 7. So we just received our update from Forestal, who had been going back and forth with Bafang. The drive unit is currently with them for a full analysis and diagnostic test, which unfortunately we don't have a report on just yet. However, what we did learn is that there is a built-in safe mode, much like a limp mode in a lot of cars, and what it does is it kicks on when the drive unit reaches a certain temperature and prevents permanent or, you know, catastrophic damage to the drive unit. So they want to check and see which power mode we were in, how long we had been in those modes, and kind of see what temperature that safe mode kicked in at. They're thinking potentially it may have come on a little bit earlier than it should, but ultimately they were pleased that the safe mode did what it was supposed to do, which is drop down and regulate power until the drive unit reached a safe operating temperature for us again. You know, being that we felt like the drive unit was in a trail mode with other bikes in trail mode, we're gonna lean towards that thing might have come on by mistake a little too early, but we'll have to wait. Hopefully we'll find out in the future, but for now, just know that there is a safe mode and that drive unit kicked into safe mode, effectively dropping the power and protecting the drive unit. So that's all we've got for you now. Back to the review. Well, there you have it, the Forestal Siryon. Stay tuned. We've got 7 other bikes to compare this up against in our series before we get to the round table and final discussion to see how it sits in the group. So thank you guys very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos, and we hope to see you out on the trails.